Today's live stream YouTube version of the top tech gifts presented by our home and school district's instructional technology department. My name is Lisa Risch. I am the instructional technology coordinator.
And I am Peter Gorman. I work at the IT help desk at the high school.
We also have Greg Krieger in our back room running video for our live event, which will also be archived. You can always search it on YouTube by searching for the School District of Holmen channel at SD Holmen, sorry. And you can also access this presentation at bit.do/techgifts. And that will also be posted on the instructional technology website tomorrow morning as well. Our agenda for today will involve looking at the top tech gifts that we would like to show you today. We're not endorsing or recommending purchases necessarily, but meant to be an informational presentation today. And if there's any questions, we will be available afterwards for those questions as well.
All right, to start off our recommendation, or not recommendations, but examples here, we have a device called a Raspberry Pi. These cost anywhere from $35 up to a little bit over $100. It's literally just a mini computer. It's great for a student who wants to explore the world of coding and computers. All you do is you hook up a TV or a computer monitor with HDMI, a keyboard and mouse, and you're good to go. This does run on the Raspberry Pi Linux operating system, which does take a bit to learn. It is a little bit different than your average Windows computer, but if you dive right in, you get used to it pretty quickly. This is great for anyone from 8 to 10 years old all the way up to high school and college.
Notice that on each page we also have a recommended age range, and also on the bottom right hand corner there's a learn more here specific to that item that's on that page that will take you to a website that will give you even more information if you like it.
All right, moving on, we have power banks. If you are a user who forgets to charge your phone or use your devices so much that they run out throughout the day, a power bank is a great purchase. These are used to charge a tablet or a cell phone. They will not work with a Chromebook. I am not aware of any power bank that supplies a normal wall outlet on it. If you find one, good luck.
Let Peter know.
Yeah, let me know. These are available in capacities as small as 2,000, 3,000 milliamp hours, all the way up to 20,000 or more. For reference, a normal cell phone has anywhere from 2,500 milliamp hour to 3,500 plus in their battery. Also be aware that because of conversion and loss through the actual transfer process, you will not get that full 5,000 milliamp hours, for example. You'll get more like 4,000, and as time goes on, the battery will degrade and you'll get less and less. So these are great for really anybody who has any cell phone or tablet. I know when Pokemon Go was huge, a year and a half ago now, these things were selling like hotcakes.
And you do have to remember to charge the charger, right?
Yes, you do have to charge the power bank, and it does take quite some time. I have a 8,000 milliamp hour power bank, and it takes probably about 10 hours to charge from my computer.
Sounds like that's something on my Christmas list, Peter.
Yeah.
The next item is my clicker's not working here.
Back for you.
Okay. Thank you. My next item is a Rocket book. This is for the student or even adult who is interested in writing, journaling. Teachers across the district are really stressing the idea of literacy and focusing on that as a lifelong skill. So what's cool about this book is that as you're writing in it and filling it up, the pen contains magic ink. And so after it's full, just a minute or so in the microwave with a cup of water completely erases the book. However, all of your work, your drawings, your writings, and so on, are saved online after you connect it to your device. And so that is a kind of a cool feature if you're that kind of spy person and you want to get that invisible ink and have some exploration that way. Know that if you do write in the Rocket book with real pen or real ink, that will be permanent. So it's the pen that's the magic part of this. And you can use that pen in the microwave on that book 5 different times before the ink will run out. So you have about 5 different times you can fill that book up. That's the Rocket book. Averages around $35, $40. I know, this is, should have tested my clicker. Maybe I'm too far away, yeah. All right, a year ago, I switched into this role as the instructional technology coordinator. I was the middle school librarian. And I couldn't do a presentation on tech gifts without talking a little bit about books. It's just one of the best gifts that you can give to your child, and one that does have some connections to tech. So I know a very popular topic in the library at the middle school was always Minecraft. Kids were coming in, and any kind of book that had to do with Minecraft was a seller. It was one that was hard to keep on the shelves. So that's something that you could take a look at. Also, I wanted to point out Reshma Sujani, who is the co-founder of Girls Who Code. Her goal was to try and narrow that gender gap between males and females and computer programmers and so on by really stressing girls and coding. And so her book, Girls Who Code, is a bestseller. Other books go along with coding and programming. I'll let Peter talk about specific types of coding that go along well with books as well.
Right, so on the screen here we have a couple books I'd like to point out. The Hello Swift book specifically. Swift is a language used specifically for coding iOS apps, so those would be apps for iPhones and iPads. This is a really good language to learn if you have a child who wants to go into app development. I have a buddy who develops apps, and he said he really loves Swift. I just have to take his word for it. I've never used it. But if you want something that's a bit more versatile and works on mobile devices as well as desktops and works across Windows and OS X, you want to learn something like Python or Java. We do have a Python book on here. Python is a very high-level language, which means that it is easily readable by a person. So if you take a look at it, you can kind of understand what's going on, even if you don't really have a background in programming. I've been teaching myself Python, for example, and I've just been flying through it. It's a pretty good language to learn, and it's really usable for anything, really.
You have the clicker.
I do have the clicker now.
All right, now we're going to start getting into some coding and programming toys. There's a lot of tech out there, and STEM, science and technology and math, is a really hot topic right now in the toy world. And so we're going to be trying to show you examples of things by price range. So in our lowest price range for coding and programming toys, we have things like the Code and Go robot mouse, where students are actually programming that mouse to go through the maze and tiles. We have the Code Car toy, which the first item that Peter talked about was the Raspberry Pi. If that seems a little too technical for you, the Code Car toy is kind of a nice introduction to what that Raspberry Pi would look like. One reviewer actually said that he especially liked it because it doubled up as a toy. Because after his nephew created it and coded the lights and the actions and so on, the sounds, he actually used it as a double Matchbox car. So he played with it physically. The Fisher-Price Codapillar allows even the youngest users to do coding. The top part of the head of the pillar, caterpillar, is the mechanical part, and then kids add on the tail pieces to code it in different directions, to code the lighting, to code the sounds, and very simple to use. Robot Turtles was actually created by a software entrepreneur who decided that he wanted to show his twin 4-year-olds some empowerment with coding and programming. And so Robot Turtles is a board game that allows students to start making decisions about which direction they're making as they move their turtle from the corner to the inside jewel.
Up next, we have some streaming to TV devices. So maybe you're at home and you have a desktop that's far away from your TV, but you still want to watch Netflix and it's not a smart TV. You can buy one of these devices. For example, the Chromecast, the Fire Stick, and the Roku. The Chromecast will actually stream from your device to the TV that has the Chromecast plugged into. The Amazon Fire Stick and the Roku are actually the devices themselves that you stream from. These are as cheap as $25, $35. I know the Chromecast Ultra, which streams 4K video and content, that runs about $70. They're really just great if you don't have a dedicated PS4 or Xbox for streaming Netflix, which is what I use my PS4 for. And then the Chromecast is good for like playing music through your TV as well if you don't want to have an HDMI cable running across the living room.
Hey, let me put you on the spot here, Peter. If I had some cool pictures from my vacation on my phone and I wanted to show my whole family over the holiday break, could I do that with Chromecast?
You could do that with a Chromecast.
Sounds awesome.
All right, up next we have some wireless mice. If you're like myself, you don't really like using trackpads very much. And so I would much prefer a mouse, and we got some recommendations here. So I would shoot for anything over about $15 up to about $50. You don't really want to go under 15 because they've got poor receivers and they will just die on you pretty quickly. We've got some brands here that are pretty well known and respected, brands such as Logitech, Microsoft, Amazon Basics, and HP. Any of these will serve you really well. They'll have a decent battery life. The receiver will be strong and won't get too much interference. And they're typically pretty small. You can fit them in a pocket of your pants or even your Chromebook bag.
Lots of students like to have those. Next on the list we have video games, and I'm guessing that many of you have video gamers in your households, and they probably are telling you what they want, but Peter has some suggestions.
Yep, so if you're going to be buying your child a video game, always make sure that you buy the right version. If they have a PlayStation, an Xbox disc will not work on it, and vice versa. Then also always make sure you watch out for parental ratings. If your kid's not 16, 17, you might want to think twice before buying them that new M game. We got some really hot sellers on the screen here. NBA is always or 2K is always a super popular game. Madden's always popular. Call of Duty as well. The sports games are always pretty child friendly for the most part. They're not too bad. Mm-hmm. I would let a 12, 13-year-old play those without an issue. But then something like Resident Evil or Call of Duty, I would definitely wait till they're at least 15 or 16 or so. I also do have a little note here. If you're going to be buying your child a video game for the holidays, please avoid Star Wars Battlefront 2. Just Google it. The company EA is getting a lot of flack for some of their decisions they've made with the game, where you can spend real money to become better at the game. So if your son or daughter gets this game for Christmas and you don't give them your credit card, they're not going to have a good time because they're going to be playing against people who have spent literally thousands of dollars on the game.
Also, in my position, I'm often asked, how often and how long should I let my child use and play video games? And really, that's a personal choice for you as parents. There is certainly a time and a place for limits, though. And the biggest concern I usually have, and reply back to students as well as parents, is that make sure it's not detracting from other parts of your life. Make sure you're still getting enough exercise, playing outside, playing with your friends, using other games, that's not your sole thing you're doing from the Friday night that you come home on the weekend until the Sunday night that you go to bed before school the next day. Try and make yourself well-rounded that way.
Just got to balance your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Up next, we have some wireless speakers. So let's say your son or your daughter are hanging out with their friends and they're trying to listen to some music and they play it through their cell phone. I'm sure many of you have tried to be in public and you hear people playing their music on their phone really loud. Doesn't sound so great, but for $20, $30 you can get a pretty decent Bluetooth speaker. I would avoid anything cheaper than about $20. They've got poor sound quality and their battery life isn't going to be very good. Some of the nicer brands are JBL, Bose, Logitech, and Jawbone, or really anything that's got a 4+ star rating on eBay, Amazon, whatever website you prefer to use. I would, again, here caution against buying something like Beats. I know they're really popular among high schoolers because they're flashy and they're really recognizable, but they have very poor sound signatures. They're way too expensive for what they do. There's flashy and low quality. There's an article that a pair of Bose headphones cost about $12 to make, and they sell them for $200+.
Mm.
Yeah.
All All right, next up on the list, we're going to get into some more of those higher-end coding toys and robots. Ozobots is actually an award-winning coding robot. It was the Toy Insider's top holiday toy for 2017. We do have a few of these in some of our schools, purchased through PTO funds and through grants. And essentially what they're doing is coding that device through mazes and different places that the child has drawn. You'll see a picture of that coming up from our middle school makerspace as well coming up. Also on the left, we have Jewelbots. This is a coding jewelry set that you can use to message your friends and light up. For instance, if Peter and I were friends and had the Jewelbot bracelets on, when we got into the same close proximity with each other, they would light the same color.
Ooh, I like that.
Dance Code Princess is a Disney product for coding that doesn't require any outside source, no iPad, no phone needed. It can code right through the doll itself. And you can choreograph dances. It'll play different songs, different types of lights will flash as she dances. And also Bloxels is popular in the middle school makerspace where kids can create their own video games.
Up next, we have virtual reality headsets. Prices vary widely. You can go anything from a Google Cardboard, which is about $10 to $15, to over $800 if you buy one of the dedicated gaming PC virtual reality headsets. These do require either a high-quality or high-end smartphone or a very expensive computer to use. They often come with free resources and demos and all kinds of different apps. I know Google has one that lets you go all over the world and walk around. You can go see the Great Barrier Reef through your cell phone. It's pretty awesome.
I know I took my mother-in-law on a roller coaster ride with a VR set last Christmas.
Those are pretty neat. So there are a lot of different models. Some of the higher end ones include the Google Daydream View, which I believe only works with the Pixel phones. So you might want to look into that. I believe that's how it works though. And then the Samsung Gear VR is another one of the higher end ones. As I mentioned earlier, Google Cardboard is a really cheap one, but for $15 to try out VR, I think it's pretty cool. And then there's also things like the Viewmaster Deluxe VR. All right, up next, is your student interested in photography and film, or sports, or making a channel on YouTube? Then they might want a camera for Christmas or for the holidays. My apologies. If your student is interested in film, get them something like a Canon, Sony, or Panasonic camcorder. These are great for shooting videos. They're going to look great. All kinds of mounts and stuff, so you can have nice stable videos. These are really popular with YouTubers because they're relatively cheap for what they do, and they're pretty high quality. If your child wants to get into photography, something like a Canon or Nikon, DSLR would be an excellent choice. They're extremely popular and moddable. All of my friends, when they were in college and taking photography classes, they would always use Canons or Nikons. There was nothing else that they even tried using. They didn't even bother. So these are really good for entry-level photography, even for a $150 camera. If your student is into sports or going hiking, something like a GoPro would be an excellent choice. These would strap to your chest, your belt, your helmet, etc., and then it just records what you're doing. And then for video editing, if you have an Apple product, such as an iMac or a MacBook Pro, you get iMovie for free. iMovie is not the most powerful video editing tool there is, but it's pretty usable. The Windows counterpart is Windows Movie Maker, which is not as good as iMovie, but it gets the job done in a pinch. And then middle school and high school students at Holman also have a version of WeVideo that they can use, which is pretty good. I tried it out. I was pretty impressed with what it can do for a browser version. Mm-hmm. And then also if they want something a little higher end, you can check out Adobe's options, something like Photoshop or After Effects. You can buy these on a month-to-month basis as low as $20 a month for students.
Getting up in the higher range, depending upon maybe there's a combination of grandpas and grandmas contributing to a gift, or maybe your child wants to contribute to the gift himself as well. We wanted to offer some of the higher end products as well. On the left, you'll see those Ozobots, which can get in this price range if you get into some of the different models and some of the add-ons that you can put in. You'll see here they have created a maze with masking tape. And so they're using their cell phone to program that Ozobot through that maze. Legos, even without the tech, Legos as a toy are a great way to incite and inspire students to become architects and engineers. And the highest end Lego right now is Boost. It was on a list of a colleague's little boy, and I thought, I'm going to look into this one. This is where you can actually build, but actually code as well, the robot to do what you'd like. So it's a construction and a coding toy. Don't want a real pet in your house? You could get a pet robot for Real Makers. They also have Jimmy robots where you can program to dance. There's music involved. And another popular one that has won some awards is the Dash and Dot, which is similar to Ozobot, where kids are programming that little robot to move through different areas, do different actions, and has won several different awards as well. Some of you may already have an iPad in your household, and this is a great add-on to your game or app list for an iPad. It's called Osmel, and they range from 100, again, to 200, depending upon how many add-ons you have. It works on a stand with your iPad and a little mirror piece that goes across the top. So the child actually plays on the table, and the mirror works within the camera, mirror works within the iPad programming app. So on the right, you'll see a couple of our middle schoolers from a year or so ago playing a game where they're trying to guess the word, kind of like Hangman. And they're literally tossing those letters out across the top as they're guessing that word, and it's registering onto the iPad for the game. But it comes in all different kinds of topic areas. There's math, drawing, more word and literacy, tangrams, artistry, lots of different options, and really an engaging toy for the price.
All right, up next we have headphones. If your child is responsible and you're not concerned about them leaving them around and getting stolen, some nice high-end headphones offer a lot better comfort and sound quality than what you're normally used to. I use one of these brands on here, the AKG. I've been using them for about 6 months now, and I will never go back. So the reason why these things are better, they've got better sound quality, better drivers. Their signatures are a lot cleaner than something like Beats. And then, so some of the highest quality brands that audiophiles love are Sennheiser, Audio-Technica, AKG, Bose, things up in that price range.
And you're not a really big fan of wireless headphones, are you, Peter?
I am not. I had a wireless headset for my computer for a year and a half or so, and when I was living in college, my roommate would go make something in the microwave, and I wouldn't be able to hear anything but static for the entire time they were using the microwave. I did enjoy the fact that I could get up, walk around, grab a water from the fridge.
Charging the headphones was always an issue in our family.
Yep. Most of the battery life on them is maybe 8 hours. That is going to drain even when you're not using them. So then what I ended up doing was just leaving them plugged in all the time, which defeats the purpose. But yeah.
Definitely an option to think about, though, especially if your child's responsible, you're not worried about theft or maybe even just loss to go with that higher end brand.
And we don't have it on the slide here, but if you do have an iPhone, the Apple AirPods are very high quality. They're a little bit pricier on the $200 range up there, but they pair super easily. They're a little small, so you could probably lose them, but they've got decent battery life within the AirPod themselves, and they also have a carrying case that charges them when you're not using them. I have a couple friends who have them. They love them. I wouldn't buy them personally, but they might be right for your child, or for you even. All right, up next we have some wearable tech. So I'm sure you're aware of the craze of the Fitbits and the Apple Watches and the Samsung Watches and everything. People love them. You walk around all day, you forget your phone, still record your steps. Some of them record your sleeping habits and help you get better rest. I know some of the gym teachers are getting really into the Fitbits and other step counter ones. They don't have like a full screen like the Apple Watch, so you can't text or anything with it, but it still tracks all kinds of different movements and sleep, and you can put your diet information in there. They're really handy.
We definitely couldn't do a tech gift without talking about wearables.
One of the recommendation here, avoid anything below 4 stars as usual, and then if they're under $30, you might want to avoid them unless it's like a dedicated step counter. Those are a little bit cheaper because they don't have nearly as much tech behind them.
So the Kane Computer Kit is kind of like the next step up in price and also in availability for students to actually create their own computer. So like the Raspberry Pi that Peter talked about earlier, the lower end scale model, is made by the same company. In this particular kit, you actually get all the pieces that you need. The only other thing you need to make your computer run is a monitor or a TV. And so the directions are very well laid out in the direction pad. All the parts are there. This was actually, the link for here to learn more was actually presented through a blog of a computer software programmer who decided that she wanted her 4-year-old to be able to build his own computer. So this is a great resource if you're kind of in that upper end, and then your child can use that computer really to do a lot of different things.
Yep, they can write papers on it, they can make presentations. Again, it is a Linux machine, so you won't have access to things like Microsoft Word, but it comes with LibreOffice, I believe, which is the Linux counterpart, and then you still have access to Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, etc. They're pretty powerful for the price. I think they're really impressive. A lot of people really like them. And the nice thing about this Kano kit is that it actually comes with a case as well. And then, as Lisa said, it's got the full instruction guide there. And you might be able to see here, it's really simple. It's easier than putting together a set of Legos.
I know we're nearing our time of our presentation, so we're going to keep going, maybe speed things up a little bit so we're not taking up too much of your time. Next up is video gaming systems, and I'm sure that there's some people out there who have that on their list.
All right, yep, so if your child's been doing really well in school and you feel like rewarding them, it might be time to get them a new video game system. It's a really popular hobby among teens. I play games a lot, so I know where they're coming from. I would note that if you already have an Xbox One or a PS4, do not buy the Xbox One X or the PS4 Pro. They are better quality, but I don't think it's worth the price, in my opinion. Then there's also something like the Nintendo Switch, which can be played on the TV or handheld. It's really nice, they can be taken on the go. I took mine on a road trip recently, and it was awesome. Up next then we have drones. These are gaining a lot of popularity. Little less on the popular side because they're a little expensive, but they're extremely useful. Again, if your student is interested in film or photography, just 5-10 years ago it would cost thousands of dollars to get some decent aerial footage. Nowadays you can buy a drone for $200 or so and take some really high quality pictures. There's also a hobby called drone racing, where you actually put a VR headset on and you then race a drone around a park or around your city. It's really cool. If you are looking at something on the higher end, you're going to want to look at something like the DJI Phantoms. They are pretty pricey. I know the Phantom 3 is about $1,500. So that might be a little out there, but there's a lot of other ones that are in the $50 to $200 range that are pretty good for the price.
You'll notice we have 2 resource links on this page, one for learn more about drones, and the second one is also some information about flight simulation. We have a colleague on our team who is a big drone fan and recommended that we add that to our slide.
Helicopters.
Thanks, Dave.
He hates drones.
Yes. Oh.
All right, and then this is my last little piece. If your student is very interested in tech computers, wants to be a programmer, wants to work in IT, something like that, a really excellent gift is building a computer. I know people think it's really hard. I built my first computer at 18, and honestly it's pretty simple these days. Most things can only go in one slot. You can't go in any other direction. It's one way. It's like building an expensive Lego set, except again a little bit easier because you can only do one way. There's also thousands of guides online. There's several popular YouTubers such as Linus Tech Tips or Jay's 2 Cents who will go over builds that they're doing and then actually build it on camera, and you can see the whole process. And then there's also a website called Logical Increments. This is a website that posts builds regularly with recommendations. The lowest budget I saw on there was $170, and the highest was well over $5,000. Obviously, I don't expect anybody to go out and buy their kid a $5,000 computer, but something like the $400 to $800 range can be a lot better than what you would buy from Dell or HP for the same price.
Tablets and laptops are also obviously options for gifts at this time of year. Tablets for kids that we have done research on and found some good reviews for include the Amazon Fire Kids tablet. You'll notice prices are up there to show the various levels that we're looking at. Even the 2017 iPad has come down in price and is a great product as well at $329. Leapfrog Epic is a $100 tablet that works pretty well, and even the Amazon Fire 7 tablet at $50 is a good choice as well. Also on this link, you'll notice that we have 2 tabs as well, one for recommendations for tablets and one for recommendations for laptop purchases. You may have some of your children starting to bug you and ask about, I need a cell phone, Mom. All my friends have a cell phone. And you have to really ask yourself, is your child ready for a cell phone? There's no hard and fast rule for this. And Peter and I have talked about how over the time frame, definitely we've gotten into a younger audience of having their first cell phones. Linked at the bottom of this for Learn More here is a Common Sense Media, which is a great resource for parents to help them make this decision and guide them through all different aspects of media and their children. On this website, you'll find recommendations for movies, reviews for video games, different kinds of ways you can talk to your child about cyberbullying and how you can make sure that they're being a responsible digital citizen. So there's some questions here that you should ask yourself if your child is ready. Also know that each family is different. So even though the neighbor next door might think it's appropriate for a second grader to have a cell phone, it might be for that second grader. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to as a parent of a second grader. It really depends on your student. Some questions about, are they responsible? Are they going to lose it? It's an expensive device, right? We want to make sure that they're not going to damage it or lose it in any way. Sometimes kids need that connection to be socially involved, and that might be the case for your child. Or in my family, we didn't have a landline, and so we really needed that cell phone at a younger middle school age because they needed to be able to communicate with us as they got more actively involved with sports and so on. Also, I would ask you to think about, how are you modeling your cell phone use for your child? Because they really do watch you. And so how much you're on it, when you're using it, what kinds of apps you're doing, really impact their use of it in the future too. So if your child is ready for a cell phone, Peter has put together a great slide for purchasing tips.
Yes, so this is my recommendation. If you can, go for one of the higher end flagship phones, something like the iPhone 8, Samsung Galaxy S8, the Google Pixel, LG V30, LG G6, the OnePlus 5. The OnePlus 5 is significantly cheaper than any of the other ones on this list, and it's still a pretty capable phone. Any of the phones that I just named will perform very well, have lots of features like wireless charging, biometrics, and then they will also have the longest support. So if it's a flagship device, they typically have a minimum of 2-year support from Google or Apple, and they also get those updates more often and faster. Some of these phones, though, are extremely expensive. The Samsung Note 8 and the iPhone X are about $1,000, so I would think twice about buying that for your child if they are prone to dropping things. I
know in our family we often use the older version for the younger kids. And once they prove their responsibility with that older version, we graduated up.
Right, and then I would recommend caution on lower end models. It might only cost $100 up front for the phone, then you don't have to pay anything else in the future. But they're going to be lacking features. Within 6 months to a year, they're not going to run nearly as well. They're not going to receive updates as often, and then when they do receive updates, it's going to be months after other devices. And then their battery life is typically a lot worse because of lower end batteries used in the device.
The link that Peter has added to this slide includes a really nice table and graphic comparing all different kinds of models of cell phones as well. So that wraps up our presentation. If you have any questions or have a question about your iPad or your phone that you would like to help us with, we're going to help our audience with that right now. And know that we'll be doing more public sessions in the future. We're looking at one in March with a guest speaker talking about tech addiction, and one in May where we will invite community members, young and old, to bring in their questions and let us help you with that. So thank you very much from the School District of Holmen, and we'll see you soon.